Shalom Israel, Yabashim Yashar Barakatam to the brothers, Yahshua Bashim Yashar to the sisters. I'm Priest Officer Parag holding on the closing to the Feast of Purim. All right, for the ISUPK coming out of Arizona. We got classes Tuesday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. And every Saturday we hold our Sabbath service from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're at 12416 North 28th Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. We're in suite number 4. All right, once again, tonight is the closing of the Feast of Purim. All right, if you tuned in with us last night, we read the book of Esther and got a good understanding to the beginning of this story. All right, tonight we're going to fully understand where this holy day comes from. All right, this is a civil day. It's not a high holy day like you find in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, but it is a civil day that our forefathers, our ancestors have declared as a day to be celebrated yearly. All right, specifically for Purim, it's 2 days. All right, and we're going to find out the origin of that. Yesterday we spoke about Esther and Mordecai, which the basis of this holy day is because of those two people. All right, Mordecai is the uncle of Esther, who raised that sister to be a valiant, a very wise and smart sister. Just giving y'all a recap from yesterday. Who married the king of her captivity, which is Artaxerxes or Ahasuerus. All right, Artaxerxes. Okay, he was an Assyrian king, or excuse me, a Persian king, while we were under the captivity of the Persians and the Medes. All right, and she found favor in his eyes. All right, she found favor in his eyes because the wife that she had, Vashti, as we went over yesterday, was an evil broad who was not worthy of being a wife to a king. All right. Come to find out, just to continue recapping what we read yesterday, there was an Edomite, an Agagite, out of the Macedonian Empire named Haman or Haman. All right, and this man was he was a counselor to the king, somebody, a chairman, somebody who was in very high regard. All right, when it comes to the kingship. All right, think about that being your Secretary of State. Right, you got your president, which would be considered the king, and then you have your Secretary of State. That Secretary of State is right up there with that king, meaning they make a lot of executive decisions. They are extremely important to the livelihood of that nation. All right, very trusted, and that's what Haman was to the king Artaxerxes. Okay, well, come to find out, Haman, which being an Edomite, is a natural-born enemy to the children of Israel, which just so happened to be under captivity under Artaxerxes the king. And Haman, with that high rank that he had established, all right, and with the amount of power that he had, he declared war on the children of Israel. All right, war in the sense of destruction upon us, because of course we didn't have our own military. We are we're subjugated to these people. We're in captivity under the Persians. All right, so he made a declaration for, I believe, it was about $186 million of a bounty he put on our head to put us all to death because he hated us, because he's an Edomite, and that's what Edomites do. All right. Now, we read up to the fact that Esther was able to find favor in King Artaxerxes' heart. All right. And basically, when she found out that Haman wanted to kill all of her family, which is the children of Israel, she knew, because of how she was raised under Mordecai, that she had to do something about it. She was the only one that could do something about it. This was a woman that was an Israelite that was married to the king, the one person that had the power to do something. So before we get to reading on from where we were yesterday, I need you to pull for me the book of Esther, chapter 14. Okay, now we're going to read Esther chapter 14. Now, this is, if you're reading along with us, Esther chapter 14 is found in the Apocrypha. It is it's considered the additions to Esther. A quick breakdown to that is because the manuscripts that we have of Esther stop in the Hebrew they go from chapter 1 up to chapter 10 and verse 4. All right, the additions to Esther, they're not actually additions, they're just the completed writings. Go from Esther chapter 10 and verse 4 on up, I believe up to the 16th chapter, but it was separated because it was written in Greek instead of the Hebrew. All right, so this is still canon, this is still Bible, All right, it's just found in the Apocrypha. It was just separated that way. All right. Now, we're going to read Esther chapter 14, and I want y'all to understand. Go ahead, sis. You have something?
I don't have that.
That's in the Apocrypha. So if you're reading, let me see. So if it's in the Apocrypha, you have directly after Additions to Esther, you have the Wisdom of Solomon. Do you have that book? Okay, it might not be there. Can somebody give her this Apocrypha here? It might not be on that app that you have there. A lot of app, it depends on the app. There are certain apps that actually include it in the original book of Esther that you find in the so-called Old Testament, but you could just use our Apocrypha for now. So this is the Additions to Esther chapter 14. And before we read this, I want y'all to understand, we have to remember the human aspect of this. This is a valiant sister. She's very strong. She's very brave for doing what she did, but she is a woman, and women are delicate and very light. All right. And so it's not easy for a woman to muster up the amount of strength that it would take to come to the king, whether it's her husband or not, to be able to come up to the king the way she did. We read about it yesterday. She came into the king's court. You're not allowed to do that. Nobody was allowed to do that. No woman, no man, nobody was allowed to come into the king's inner court, but she did it. All right. That took a lot of bravery. That took a lot of bravery because she knows she could have died for that. But see, her uncle Mordecai raised her up to be a sister that gave a damn more about her nation rather than herself. And she knew what she had to do to be able to sacrifice for her nation. She knew what she had to do to save her nation because nobody else could do it. All right. But once again, let's not take the human aspect out of it. Women are very delicate. And this sister was scared. And we're going to read that. All right. Give me chapter 14, start at verse 1.
The book of Esther, Editions of Esther, chapter 14, verse 1 of the Apocrypha.
Mm-hmm.
Queen Esther, also being in fear of death, resorted unto the Lord.
Mm-hmm. She was in fear of death. This was when she found out in the timeline. This is when she found out that Haman wanted to put her whole nation to death, wanted to put the children of Israel to death. And so she was afraid, right? Just like anybody would be. If she resorted to praying to the Lord, this is how you know she's a righteous sister. All right. She didn't get in her head. She didn't do none of that. All right. She went straight to the Lord. All right. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And laid away her glorious apparel,
Mm-hmm.
and put on the garments of anguish.
And another thing that we have to understand about this sister too is she was the queen, meaning because she married that king, she was the queen over that empire. Think about that for a second. Okay, this sister was rich. She could have anything she wanted. Even when you go back into the 3rd chapter, Esther, that we read yesterday, when she became the queen, she didn't flaunt her riches to her people because she didn't want to be considered as higher than her people. All right. The basis Israelite had to be on the same level as her. That's how she felt because she was raised not to be that way. She was raised not to be the type of person that would boast in her riches when she got on top. She's not leaving the hood when she get rich. That's the type of sister she is. She want to bless the hood when she get rich. That's the type of sister that Esther was. That's how she was raised by Mordecai.
And put on garments of anguish and mourning.
And so she took away all of her glorious apparel, all of the apparel, the clothing that she had that made her look like a queen, made her look like she was rich. She took all of that off, all right? And she put on the garments of anguish and mourning. Go ahead.
And instead of precious ornaments, she covered her head with ashes and dung.
Uh-huh.
And she humbled her body greatly. And all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair.
And she got what a lot of people, when we go back into the scriptures, we find that when we was in a time of mourning, a time like this, when our people are being come up against by another nation, we mourn. A lot of times the men of Israel will put on sackcloth. Y'all ever seen like a potato bag? That's basically what sackcloth is. It's rags. All right. It was a sign of humility to the Most High. We would humble ourselves down and in reverence to the Most High, pleading with the Most High to help us. And that's what this sister did as a queen. She took off all of her her precious apparel, right? All of her precious ointments. She took all of those things and she covered her head with dung. She put on rags, right? And prayed to the Lord. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And she prayed unto the Lord God of Israel, saying, O my Lord,
Mhm.
thou only art our king.
And she understood that only the Most High was the king. Yes, she was married to Artaxerxes, which, I mean, this man had power. We talked about this yesterday. He was, at that time, Persia was the greatest empire. All right. However, she understood that the Most High is the only king that we had. All right. And that's why she resorted to praying to him. Before she ever went to go deal with the king Artaxerxes, she prayed to the Lord first. All right. And that's how she got her courage to be able to stand up to the king, not necessarily in a boisterous way, but in the way that, you know, with wisdom that we talked about yesterday, right? Keep going.
God, help me, desolate woman, which have no helper but thee.
Uh-huh.
Verse 4. For my danger is in mine hand.
For my danger is in mine hand. Go ahead. She understood her position. Keep going.
Verse 5. From my youth up, I have heard in the tribe of my family that thou, O Lord, tookest Israel from among all people,
Mm-hmm.
and our fathers from all their predecessors for perpetual inheritance. And thou hast performed whatsoever thou didst promise them.
See, this sister wasn't no dainty fool. You understand? This sister understood the Bible. Mordecai raised her right. All right. And that's why she's willing to rely on the Most High like this. Keep going.
Verse 6. And now we have sinned before thee.
And she understands why they're in this predicament. Keep going.
Therefore hast thou given us to the hands of our enemies,
Mm-hmm.
because we worship their gods. O Lord, thou art righteous.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 8. Nevertheless, it satisfieth them not that we are in bitter captivity.
Listen, this sister understood. It said it's not enough that we're in this captivity, being slaves to these Persians. It's not enough. Why? Because now they want to kill us. Now they want to put us all to death. They didn't put a hit on our head. Keep going.
Okay. But they have stricken hands with their idols.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 9. That they will abolish the thing that thou with thy mouth hath ordained,
Mm-hmm.
and destroy thine inheritance, and stop the mouth of them that praise thee.
Skip down to verse 16.
Okay. Verse 16. Thou knowest my necessity.
Mm-hmm. And this is all. Now we got to make sure we pay attention to what this is. Esther praying to the Most High. All right. This is all in that timeline right before she goes up to the king's court. All right. And so she's saying that she's telling the Most High, you know what I need. You know my necessity, right? Go ahead.
Okay. For I abhor the sign of my high estate.
And she said the same thing that we've been talking about for the past 10 minutes. She absolutely abhors her high estate. She don't want to be exalted above her people. And none of us would desire to be exalted above our people. Once again, the basis Israelite is my brother or my sister. And I don't want to be exalted above them. I want all of my brothers and sisters to be right here with me. And that's what she wanted. She don't want to be no queen that's up on top of everybody else. You understand? If there's an Israelite family that's hungry, then she want to be hungry. If there's an Israelite family that ain't got no clothes, she don't want to have no clothes. She'll wear what the poorest Israelite family is wearing. That's how she feels, because she understands what it's like to be an Israelite. Remember, she wasn't always king. She was raised up in this captivity that we're talking about. All right. So she says she abhors her high estate, right? Go ahead.
God, which is upon my head in the days wherein I shew myself, and that I abhor it as a menstruous rag.
She says she abhor it as a menstruous rag. She want to throw this thing away. She hates it, right? Keep going.
And that I wear it not when I am private by myself.
And the only reason you'll ever catch her in these elegant garments that the king got her dressed in is because the king got her dressed in these things. But when she gets from out in public, she go home and she take all that stuff off because she hates it. And if it wasn't for her having to be forced to be married to that King Artaxerxes, she would never wear things like that. Because she gets up on that high pedestal and looks down and sees all of her people not wearing that. Go sit down, baby. Sees all of her people wearing rags. All of her people slaving.
any since the day that I was brought hither to this present. But indeed, O Lord God of Abraham,
she didn't take any pleasure in being the queen. Now, most women that are simple would take pleasure in being the queen, meaning they're simple because they would love to just be raised up above their people. And nobody, I wouldn't say nobody, most people being given that position would forget about their nation. Most people would forget about their nation. And that's what happens. That's why people always talk about this man got rich and left the hood, forgot where he came from. We heard that a million times. Because when people get money and they get to, they get set up on high, they forget where they came from. You understand? That's what happens to a lot of people. Well, this sister wasn't like that. You understand? This sister remembers the covenant that the Most High made with the children of Israel. That's what she's been talking about this whole time in this whole prayer. Same mindset, because that's what saved the children of Israel in this time. People. The more that we have that, we'll never have to worry about ourselves, because we're going to worry about each other. That's the type of nation that the Most High has established. Various apparel and eat deliciously and have all of the money. That's how we would be. But this sister wasn't like that, and we're going to have to be more like this sister if we want to save our people like she saved our people. Go ahead, up. You have something?
No, so I could just add too, like, when it comes to our people, we see today our people get rich, they leave the hood, like you say, they don't get themselves a white woman, but then they forget, saying that, at the end of the day, these people still see you as just, a slave.
Right.
At the end of the day, saying that, excuse my word for you two, but in the day, you're still a nigga.
Yep.
They're saying LeBron James got millions of dollars. They still went and wrote nigga on his garage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it don't matter, and that's a lot of, like you said, a lot of people forget. That's saying forget. She said, "Yeah, I'm still a nigga. I'm still an Israelite. I'm still them same people. I'm looking when I come out and the king is presenting me to all of the people as the queen. She's looking down at all her people, and she's like, no, I'm one of them. I'm not this. That's why she just said in this prayer, she said, well, hey, when I go inside, Lord, I take all of that garbage off. I don't like wearing that. I want to wear what my people wear. I want to be in the same condition and the state as my people. I don't want to be above them." Keep going.
Okay, verse 19. O thou mighty God above all, hear the voice of the forlorn, and deliver us out of the hands of the mischievous. Deliver me out of my fear.
All right, now we're gonna read into chapter 15, and we're gonna get the backstory of King's inner court. All right, and pleaded with the king, gained the favor of the king, so that way she could save her people. We're gonna go into the behind the scenes of that. All right. So now let's read chapter 15 and verse 1. Read on down.
Okay, chapter 15, verse 1. And upon the third day, when she had ended her prayer, she laid away her mourning garments and put on her glorious apparel.
All right. This is, once again, we reading what's happening, right? She's put.
After she had called upon God, who is the beholder and savior of all things.
Hey, Salaki. Keep reading that.
Okay. And after being gloriously adorned, after she had called upon God, who is the beholder and savior of all things, she took two maids with her, and upon the one she leaned, as carrying herself daintily.
She's carrying herself daintily. Remember, we read about this already, but here's the backstory, right? She's doing this on purpose. She's making herself look feminine, right? Go ahead.
Okay, verse 4. And the other followed, bearing up her train, and she was ready through the perfection of her beauty, and her countenance was cheerful and very amiable. But her heart was in anguish for fear.
Right. So she's on the outside. So we didn't read that. It's like I said, it's the behind the scene. We didn't read that. You think when you read Esther the 7th chapter, you like, I think that might have been in the 6th chapter. You looking like, yeah, she's strutting her stuff. She know what she gotta do. She walking in front of the king, making herself look all pretty. She know exactly how to get his attention and how to get what she want. But in the back of her mind, we read and hear her thoughts, right? She's in fear. She's scared to death because she know how powerful this king is and how replaceable she is. The king could get pissed off at what she's doing because once again, she's not supposed to go into the inner court and replace her and kill her. And then her and all of her people will die. She's afraid, but she's doing what she has to do. And that's the spirit that we got to be in. You can be afraid, but you can't be afraid and not do the thing that you're supposed to do. Being afraid is all right. You understand? Most brothers, the first time they go to camp, they a little scared. They like, damn, I'm about to be in front of all these people. Hey, baby, go sit down, all right? I'm about to be in front of all these people. You understand? I know once I get up on this podium, everybody gonna hate me. It's fine. Feel that fear, embrace it, but don't make that not let you get up on that podium and speak life into your people. Don't let that not allow you to prophesy. Don't let that not allow you to raise up these dry bones. Don't allow your fear to control you. This sister, this is a woman. All right. The scriptures call a woman a weaker vessel. If this sister can do it, you damn sure can. You understand? Man or woman. You damn sure could do what this sister did. All right. She stood in the face of death. All right. And sacrificed herself for her people. All right. Keep going.
Okay. Verse 6. Then having passed through all the doors, she stood before the king, who sat upon his royal throne and was clothed with all his robes of majesty, all glittering with gold and precious stones. He was very dreadful. Then lifting up his countenance that shone with majesty, he looked very fiercely upon her. And the queen fell down and was pale and fainted, and bowed herself upon the head of the maid that went before her.
Go ahead.
Verse 8. Then God changed the spirit of the king into mildness.
Right, and you're not getting all of this when you read in the book of Esther, the 5th and 6th chapter. All right. We're getting these behind the scenes. She fainted because look, the king was pissed off. Because once again, she doing something she knows she's not supposed to be doing. All right. But when she saw that look on his face, she fainted and turned pale, right? And fell down. Right. But guess what happened? Keep going. Read verse 8 again.
Verse 8. Then God changed the spirit of the king into mildness.
Then who changed the spirit?
God changed the spirit.
Right. See, the only way that this could have happened is because the Lord was on her side. Otherwise, that king's spirit would not have changed, and he would have remained pissed off and probably would have cut her goddamn head off. You see what he did to Vashti. You understand? Like he not concerned about that. The spirit of the Lord had to come up on that man because the Lord was with her. That was the only way that was going to happen. All right. Keep going.
Okay. Who in a fear leaped from his throne and took her in his arms till she came to herself again, and comforted her with loving words and said unto her, Esther, what is the matter? I am thy brother, be of good cheer. Thou shalt not die, though our commandment be general, come near.
Right. So now he's saying, look, I know the commandment is general, meaning I know that I've laid out the law that nobody can come into this inner court unless I tell them that they can first. But we're going to skip that. I'm going to give you a pass. Come on. Keep going.
Okay, verse 11. And so he held up his golden scepter and laid it upon her neck and embraced her and said, Speak unto me. Then she said unto him, I saw thee, my Lord, as an angel of God, and my heart was troubled for fear of thy majesty. For wonderful thou art, Lord, and thy countenance full of grace. And as she was speaking, she fell down for faintness. Then the king was troubled.
So now, go ahead.
Then the king was troubled, and all his servants comforted her.
All right, so now we caught up. That's exactly where that's just to fill in that story. All right, and now continuing on from where we went, from where we left off yesterday, she was able to talk to the king and let the king know about Haman's plan to destroy all of the Jews. All right, because of this. All right, so now we're going to continue on because I need you to get from me Give me Esther chapter 7, and get me verse. Let's read verse 6 again on down, just so we can recap. Go ahead.
Esther chapter 7, verse 6. And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Mm-hmm.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and queen.
So Esther had invited Haman and Artaxerxes the king to this banquet, and they all sat down. And in front of everybody, and in front of Artaxerxes and in front of Haman, she tells the king, "Hey, the adversary, the real problem here is that man right there. He's sitting across the table from me, Haman." Right? Keep going.
Verse 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen.
So Haman, now he's begging for his life. Because now at this point, Haman understands that Esther has now gained more favor than him in the sight of the king. Esther has the favor of the king now, not Haman. Haman used to be the right-hand man, although they were two different nations. Remember, Artaxerxes is a Persian. All right, Haman is an Edomite. However, he had gained favor in the king's eyes, but not anymore. All right, because now Esther has shown the king that Haman is making these executive decisions without the consent of the king. Now that's a move of an enemy. All right, so now Haman is now begging for his life to Esther. Now he's trying to beg for his life, right? Go ahead.
For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 8. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the palace of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was.
Go ahead.
Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Verse 9. Yeah.
So they didn't grab Haman up. If y'all ever seen, sometimes you might have said, I hope you ain't seen this in person, but you might have watched a movie or a cartoon or something where they bag somebody, put a bag over their head and drag them off. That's what they did to Haman, right? And when you see that happen, you know it's up. It's a problem, right? Keep going.
Verse 9. In Harbanah, one of the chamberlains said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king. I'm not sure if y'all read that yesterday. All right, but Haman he hated Mordecai so much, mainly, and we're gonna read this in a second. Shy, hold for me. You need the additions to Esther in that apocrypha over there. I need you to get the additions to Esther chapter 13. All right, we're gonna read that in a second. Mordecai would not bow to Haman. He was of such a high regard, Haman was in that nation, that when you saw him, you had to bow down too. All right, but Mordecai wouldn't do it. He wouldn't move out the way when he was walking past, and he wouldn't bow down to him. And he hated him for that. And he created a gallows, which a gallows is it's where you get hung. All right, it's a big I don't know really what to call it. It's a big wooden setup. All right, that's nice and tall enough for you to be able to be hung from with a rope. All right, he made it just for Mordecai. That's what Haman did. He made that thing just for Mordecai. All right, well now the tables is turned. All right, and so now one of the chamberlains, Harbanah, he's like, hey, there's that gallows that Haman had prepared for Mordecai. Keep going. Standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon.
And the king said, you're going to hang him on that. Go ahead.
Verse 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. And then was the king's wrath pacified. That wicked Haman, that wicked Haman, he was put to death. That's what the scriptures say about the wicked falling into their own snare. That's what David wrote about a lot in the book of Psalms, right? The wicked will fall into their own snare. He had prepared a snare or a trap, something to put to death Mordecai. But really, he actually created that snare for himself, because he was the one that ended up getting hung on it. And that's a beautiful thing in my eyes. Now let's get the additions to Esther. Let's get chapter 13.
Hold on real quick. Let's get chapter 13, verse 12. Additions to Esther. It should be under Esther.
After Esther, chapter 13, verse 12. Thou knowest all things, and thou knowest, Lord, that it was neither in contempt nor pride.
So now this is Mordecai praying to the Most High. I know we read this yesterday when Mordecai would not move out of the way for Haman. All right. And so now Mordecai is praying to the Most High, and he's saying, it wasn't because, it wasn't out of contempt that I did that. And it wasn't about pride. Keep going.
Nor for any desire of glory.
And I didn't do that for glory's sake either. I didn't do that so people would look at me and be like, oh, big Mordecai, he didn't get out the way for Haman. That's big, tough stuff. Now, he ain't doing for that either, right? Keep going.
That I did not bow down to the proud Haman.
Go ahead.
Verse 13. For I could have been content with goodwill for the salvation of Israel to kiss the soles of his feet.
Go ahead. Hold on, baby. Go sit down for a second. He said, for I could have been content with goodwill for the salvation of Israel to kiss the soles of his feet. He's saying, look, bowing down was nothing. It wasn't about that. I would have bowed. If it would have meant the salvation of Israel, I would have bowed down and kissed his foot. Like we be getting them boot kisses at camp. He would have done that out of the pure love that he had for his people. He would have humbled himself down that low. So he's saying it wasn't out of contempt or out of vainglory that he was trying to get some sort of credit, all right, for not bowing down to Haman, because he would have if it would have meant the salvation of his people, right? But verse 14.
Verse 14. But I did this that I might not prefer the glory of a man above the glory of God.
He said the reason that he did that, the reason he didn't bow down to Haman, was because he wasn't going to prefer the glory of man above the glory of God. He wasn't going to reverence no man, especially not no goddamn Edomite. Keep reading.
Neither will I worship any but thee, O God.
Mm-hmm.
Neither will I do it in pride.
All right. Razan, if you don't mind, hold for me the book of First Ezra. All right. Hold for me the book of First Ezra. Now we're gonna keep reading, Kazak. I need you to read into. So now we see Haman got put to death. All right. We see Haman got put to death. All right, on the same gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Okay. Now let's read. Just read in verse 8.
Chapter 7.
No, I'm slugging. Chapter 8. Forgive me. Esther chapter 8, verse 1.
Esther chapter 8, verse 1. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen.
And so now the king, Artaxerxes, he gave the house of Haman, meaning all that Haman had possessed, all of his riches. Remember, this cat had enough to put $186 million on the children of Israel's head. So he had a lot of money. Well, all of that he gave to the Jews, and he gave all of his belongings, everything he had, right? He gave it to the Jews, all right, and unto Esther. Okay, go ahead.
And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her.
Uh-huh.
Verse 2. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai.
And so now the king took the ring off of Haman, which was his right-hand man, and gave it to Mordecai, a Jew who was under his captivity. This woman's righteousness and courageousness gave credence so much to how righteous the children of Israel were, that even them being under captivity under this king had to recognize this man and had to recognize the Jews as a righteous people. He had to. You understand? And that's what y'all got to understand. Your righteousness and your acts and your deeds, your deeds can cause the salvation of your nation, or they can cause the destruction of your nation. You pick. Right? Esther could have done some terrible things. She could have decided that she was not going to stand up for her people. She could have decided that. However, she didn't. All right. And that was life and death. That was a life and death decision. All right. Keep going.
Verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite. and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
Right? And what's that device, all right, that was devised against the Jews? That $186 million worth of silver that he put on the Jews' head. Now that Haman is put to death, he said, look, she said, Esther said to the king, I need you to reverse that order. All right. I need you to reverse that order to put my people to death. All right. That was the last thing she had to do. Keep going.
Verse 4. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther.
Mm-hmm.
So Esther arose and stood before the king. Verse 5. And said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. Verse 6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people?
And this is what she's saying. She even saying to this Persian man, she's saying, how can I endure the evil that's come unto my people? She's making her plea to this man, to her husband. Right? She's saying, how can I endure to see my people be put to death and I stay alive? I can't fathom it. Keep going.
Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Verse 7. Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they had hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
Go ahead. Verse 8.
Verse 8. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring.
Hey, look, and that's power. Right? He said, this is the king saying this. Artaxerxes is saying, I'm going to give you this paper, this stationery. All right? With the seal of the king's ring on it. You write whatever the hell you want for your people. That's power. You understand? Keep going.
For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse.
So now, this was a declaration. This is what happened. All right, we're gonna keep reading. Go down to chapter 9. We're gonna find out that there was a declaration that overturned Haman's declaration, which was to slaughter the Jews, to commit genocide to the children of Israel. All right, the decree went forth to reverse. All right, that order. So now let's read chapter 9 and verse 1.
Esther chapter 9 verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled over them that hated them. Verse 2. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could stand with them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. Right, the fear of the Jews fell upon all people. For some reason, this is something that happens a lot in the scriptures, right? We find that the children of Israel, no matter what condition they're in, we're in captivity here under the Persians and the Medes. We're in captivity, and somehow, with the mercy of the Lord, the people fear us. When else did that happen? Who could tell me when else that happened? Something damn near identical.
Black Wall Street.
That's true. And Egypt. That's what I wanted. Egypt. We was slaves, captives, and they was like, this nation is growing. We scared of these people. This nation is growing too fast. These people are gonna overthrow us. That's how afraid they were of us, and we were slaves. Well, he brought up Black Wall Street. That's the same thing happened. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, right? When we start to show that the Lord is with us and we're the true children of the Most High God, the nations get afraid and they have to do something about it. You understand? And that's what happened in Egypt. That's what happened with Black Wall Street. Luckily here, because of what Esther had done, couldn't nobody touch us. Couldn't nobody do nothing. Yes, they were afraid of us because they saw the Lord was with us, and the Lord remained with us, and nobody was going to be able to do a damn thing because the king's ring sealed the note and the declaration that said, "You're not to touch these Jews. You're not to touch these people. These are God's people." And we're gonna read the declaration in the book of Additions to Esther in just a minute. You had something?
So like if I could,
Mhm.
for all of the Judite sisters with that queen complex, that goddess, universal power, energy, zodiac, this is what you don't understand. And this is why Esther is better than you.
Mm-hmm.
Esther was an actual queen, and she got her wisdom from a righteous man who was broke.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
Damn right. And she was a queen. You missed it, but she was a queen that hated putting on glorious appearance. She didn't like being exalted above her people. She wanted to be equal with the basis of Israelites because that was her people.
Right.
And she once again had the authority. She was exalted high enough to be whatever type of queen she wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but she didn't desire that because she was a true princess of the power.
So like if I could,
Go ahead.
another thing that she did, which is unlike you so-called entertainment queens, is shaking your behind and acting wild. She actually saved her people, all the little girls included, but all the little boys too. She
Mhm.
saved her people with her actions. She didn't drive little girls towards a strip club or a corner. She didn't
Mhm.
drive little boys to think that it's cool to abuse and use a woman. She actually saved us from being put largely, out the
Yeah.
picture. So
Damn right. Hey, let's get chapter 9. Just drop down, to let's see. Okay, we're gonna skip some of this, but we're gonna read verse 5.
Ezra chapter 9, verse 5. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword,
that's right,
and slaughter and destruction,
right,
and did what they would unto those that hated them.
that's
and,
right.
And the Jews, the children of Israel, we put to death all of the enemies that we had by the king's authority. Remember, the king allowed us, he gave us a piece of his stationery, a piece of paper that was declared by the king. This is only the king got this, and it's sealed with the king's ring. And Mordecai was able to write any declaration he wanted. So he declared that he was allowed, him and a company of the Jews was able to go and destroy all of their enemies. And the 10 sons of Haman. Haman he was trying to build a damn dynasty. He had 10 sons, all right, that were following in his footsteps, and we destroyed them too. Keep going.
Verse 6.
Matter of fact, drop down. There's going to be a bunch of their names, all right? We don't need to, they're not even worthy to be read, but it reads off the 10 names. Go ahead, verse 10.
Verse 10. The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand.
Mm-hmm. And that's a custom that we find all throughout Israel. Sometimes it don't matter if they got gold, silver, and beautiful garments. It's tainted goods because it was owned by disgusting people.
Right.
And we ain't take none of it. And that's a lot of, you find that all throughout when the Lord tells us to take the people's land.
Yeah.
You got to throw all of that stuff they have, throw all that stuff away. It might be worth value, physically, but it's disgusting spiritually. It was owned by these nasty people who the Lord hates. Well, the Lord hated Haman, all right? He hated Haman and everything that he stood for, and his family and his generations.
That's right.
And so everything that they touched, we didn't take. We just killed them because that's what we needed to do. Get rid of that. The scriptures say, put away the evil from Israel. We had to put away the evil from out this earth. All right? Yes, I'm up.
I get that's definitely do I think not want to something that's seen as dirty or vile.
Mm-hmm.
Like at my slavery, right? Certain people that work in certain area in the TSA, when they go out to change the bags, people sometimes have to throw away. But a lot of the Edomites there, when they work that area, they'll dig through the trash bags and take the perfumes and the
Vagabonds.
Vagabonds.
Goddamn vagabonds in the earth.
And they're like, you want some of this? Like, that was just in the trash bag. I'm not taking none of that.
Right.
They kind of, I just say that's definitely.
And see, and when you truly get the spirit of the Lord, you start to look at the other nations as trash, and you don't want nothing they touch. All right, that's the spirit of the Lord. Go ahead. Yes.
So except the entire earth.
Right. So yeah,
Except the entire earth.
All right. So now let's keep reading. Let's jump down to verse 13. All right, so now, well, Salakia. Yeah, let's jump down to verse 13.
Verse 13. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Now we hanging Haman's 10 sons upon the gallows that Haman had built for Mordecai.
That's right.
See how see how the tables turn?
Oh yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Keep going.
Verse 14. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons.
Keep reading.
Verse 15. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan. But on the prey they laid not their hand.
Once again, right? They did this 2 days in a row. All right. And if we're gonna find out that these are the 2 days that we celebrate.
Right.
All right, in the Feast of Purim. It's about us destroying our enemies. See, the Lord, the book of Exodus, the 15th chapter, the 3rd verse says that the Most High is a man of war.
That's right.
All right. And you come to find that we got multiple days, civil days and high holy days that we celebrate that are about the destruction of our enemies. We got the Passover, we got the Feast of Purim, we got the Feast of Dedication. All right. All throughout the scriptures, we find celebrations for us destroying our enemies. All right, because the Lord is a man of war and he celebrates in the destruction of the other nations.
Right.
You have something up?
So well, again, that's gang activity. They squatted up. They knew who they were. Back in the day, we knew that we were Israelites and that we were on the same team. Haman and his son certainly weren't confused.
Right.
This is a situation where life and death was identity.
Yeah. No, damn right. Damn right. And that definitely meant a lot more back then than it does now to our people. Now, nobody gives a damn. At least we don't. The other nations do. They see it. Right. But we don't. But when we can come on one accord like this, and we talked about this at the beginning of the class, when we come on one accord like this and stop being so goddamn selfish and become selfless, nobody has to be selfish anymore because we all concerned with one another. All right. But of course, that takes everybody. All right. So now let's keep reading.
Verse 16. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together.
Let's skip down verse 17.
Verse 17. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
So that's where your Feast of Purim comes from, right? And this is all the only reason that we have this feast is because of the courage of this woman Esther, all right, and the wisdom that was bestowed upon her by her father figure, or her uncle Mordecai, right? Keep going.
Verse 18. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Give me verse 20.
Verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king, Ahasuerus, both nigh and far. Verse 21. To establish this among them, they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly.
And that's where so the 14th and the 15th day of the month Adar, of course, this is according to the Hebrew calendar, is where you get your Purim from. And this was something that Mordecai established because of our victory over the heathen and because of us being able to overcome the thing that Haman, our enemy, tried to bestow on us, which was death and destruction. We was able to overcome that death. All right. But I want to read something before we get up out of here. Matter of fact, let me see something. Hold on 1 second. Give me so let's drop down and give me verse 27. Let's get verse 20 26.
Esther chapter 9 verse 26. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them. Verse 27. The Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as join themselves unto them.
So you know what Purim means, right?
Wow, sir.
Purim is it means lots. All right, you know what lots are? What's lots?
Nice.
Right, dice, or like let's just so lots are dice, right? But what do you do when you're casting lots? What is that you're doing?
You're making a difficult decision and leaving it to absolute chance.
Right. But also lots is used to make, like you said, decisions, but also to cast what's the word that I'm looking for? What's the word that I'm looking for? It's like at an auction, right? To put your bid in. All right. Well, Haman he cast his lots upon us. He put his bid on us. He put a number on our head. All right. Come to find out, the Lord has something on his head, right? And we find that, of course, it's so beautiful how it played out, because once again, not only did his decree to put the Jews to death get overturned, but the same gallows that he built, I got to keep stressing that, the same gallows that he built to hang Mordecai on, he ended up dying on, not only him, but his sons too. Hey, that's Revelation, the 13th chapter and the 10th verse. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith, the patience and the faith of the saints. That's how we got to look at this thing. So think about, and the scriptures also say that they're going to be rendered double, fill their cup double as to what they've done unto us. So think about it. They lay in their own snare right now. They got us in slavery. They got us in captivity. Yeah. And that sucks. But guess what? The Most High's punishment for them is going to be far worse than what we see here. It's going to be double. And that's what we have to look forward to. But see, the thing is, we're not going to get that. And we're never going to experience that if we can't come up to the beat and to be as courageous as this sister was, right? To be as wise as that brother Mordecai was. If we ain't got no men and women willing to serve the Most High in this nation, Jesus Christ, never. Who's he going to come back for? Right. He's sure not coming back, and we not putting no work in. He not coming back, and everybody's scared to go out on the streets and speak. Right. He not coming back for that nation. The scriptures say that we got to provoke the Most High. Go ahead. You have something?
Salahia. That was a beautiful thing. I'm happy you. I didn't know that the scripture said we have to provoke the Most High. Mm-hmm. Keep that at heart. I just want to throw down, sir. You know, it's crazy for all of the things that this sister did and that she endured. This is a feast day. This is not a high holy day, am I right?
God, it's a civil feast day.
The beautiful thing about this right here is this is proof that we love women and we love black women. All of you black women that did not show up to this school in Arizona for the Feast of Purim, we all love black women more than you. Mm-hmm. Sloppy.
I'm right.
Because this is not a law, but we're here because she's our sister and damn it, she saved our lives.
Right. And that's it's another beautiful thing. You know, the scriptures put these women and men in this Bible to be reverenced from. I mean, this is a story of 2,500 years ago. This is a long time ago. You understand? But her name, of course, and Mordecai's name are going to live on forever because of their deeds, because of their courageous acts. All right. So now there we have that. I just want to something you said was important. All right. I want to read this real quick. Matter of fact, before we get to that, let's go to Esther, the additions to Esther. We're going to read, let's read chapter 16. However, let me see. All right. This is the decree that was set forth. All right. That was sealed with Artaxerxes' ring. All right. The one that overturned what Haman was trying to do, right? Getting us all put to death. And also the declaration of the Feast of Purim. All right. That it must be done in all of the king's provinces. Read chapter 16 from the top.
Chapter 16, verse 1. The great king of Artaxerxes Artaxerxes under the princess.
You gotta slow down.
Princes,
Artaxerxes unto.
Artaxerxes unto the princes and governors of 107 and 20 provinces from India to Ethiopia,
Mm-hmm.
and unto all our faithful subjects and greeting.
Read that. Hold on. Unto all our faithful subjects, greeting. Now remember, from India, for one, India to Ethiopia is a very wide span. This man had power over much of the inhabited earth, all right, at the time, and really all of the earth that mattered, all right, where all of your precious metals was at, and everything that that your exports that you needed to be a thriving nation, all right, thriving empire. He had it all because he was in control of all of those places, all right. Keep going. Verse 2.
Verse 2. Many the more often they are honored with a great bounty of their gracious princes, the more proud they are waxing.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 3. And the endeavor to hurt not our subjects only, but not being able to bear abundance.
Mm-hmm.
You take in hand to practice also against those that do them good.
Okay, so now he's just this is an opening for this declaration that's being sent out to all of the nations that were underneath the empire of Artaxerxes, right? Give me drop down to verse 10.
Verse 10. For Amon, a Macedonian,
Mm-hmm.
the son of
Amadatha.
being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood,
Uh-huh.
and a far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us. Verse 11. Had so far forth attained the favor that we sue that every nation and that
Read that. Hold on. That we what?
And that we shew toward every nation,
Mm-hmm.
and that he was called our father, and was continuously honored of all men, as the next person unto the king.
Right. Once again, so the next person unto the king. Like Haman, he had a very high, he was held to a very high regard. All right. Anybody that knew Artaxerxes knew Haman. Okay. And so when he's writing, so now when Artaxerxes is putting his letter out, he's letting everybody know about what happened, because the questions are going to come up. What the hell happened to Haman? Mm-hmm. All right. They're going to find out that him and his sons got put to death. They're going to have a lot of questions. Well, he's answering the questions before they get asked, right? So he's saying, yeah, Haman, we treated him just like everybody else because, of course, this man being diplomatic, right? This king being diplomatic, he's basically saying, we're nice to everybody, much like how America says that they're nice to everybody, even though they kill everybody. All right. They like to say that they're nice, and Joe Biden is nice and pleasant and talks sweet to everybody. All right. Well, this is what Artaxerxes is saying. He's saying, yeah, we treated Haman beautifully, just like we treat everybody else. All right. Even though he was a stranger from Persian blood, he's an Agagite, he's an Edomite. All right. Keep going. Verse 12.
Verse 12. But he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life.
So how did he go about to deprive us of our kingdom, or of the Persian kingdom and life?
So like I said, first of all, the Israelites, the greatest people on earth, back then and today, forever, were slaves under that kingdom. And we know that whatever kingdom that we're under is at the top. So there's one. The other was step into us and step into the Most High, something that's guaranteed to backfire every time. Yeah, like it's one thing. Here's the thing about the way the Lord works. The Lord will allow us to be punished, okay? But the scriptures say that the heathen have taken it too far. And this heathen, specifically Haman, he was attempting to take it too far. You understand? Haman was trying to kill us all. He was trying to commit a genocide, destroy the Lord's people. All right? That's like the Lord, we were in captivity. So it's like the Lord giving us an ass whooping, checking the hell out of us, giving us an ass whooping, cussing us out. And then some random white man come and put a gun to our head. So the father's gonna be like,
get the hell out of here. He gonna kill you with your own goddamn gun because, yeah, he wanted to whoop our ass, but he didn't want to kill us. He just wanted to reprove us. But Haman, he took it into his own hands to try to commit a genocide against us. And of course, that is how that's how Artaxerxes understood, hey, this Haman, this Haman, he went too far. The Lord was getting ready to destroy my whole kingdom because Haman was putting me at jeopardy because he wanted to touch the apple of the Most High's eye. And he understood that. Remember, the fear of the Jews fell upon the people because they understood that the children of Israel were chosen by the Most High, especially after what had happened with Esther. All right, but let's keep reading.
Verse 13. Having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction as well of
Mardochus, this is talking about Merodach or Mordecai, right? You can say Mordecai.
Mardochus, who saved our life and continuously
procured
our good, as also of blameless Esther, partake of our kingdom with the whole nation.
So now this is him explaining. Artaxerxes is explaining that this man Mordecai. I don't know if y'all read this yesterday. Mordecai, he told on a couple of these the guards that were they were plotting against killing Artaxerxes.
Right.
They were plotting. He overheard them plotting to kill Artaxerxes, and he went and told the staff. Come to find out, Artaxerxes find out. I think a couple weeks later, he read in a file somewhere. He requested some files, and he found out that Mordecai saved his life by telling the staff that there were two guards trying to kill Artaxerxes. So at that point, Artaxerxes like, damn, this brother's he's solid. He saved my life. If it hadn't have been for him exposing their plot, I'd have been dead. You gotta go sit down, baby. Go ahead, baby. Like he understood that. So that's why we see Artaxerxes saying here, Haman was trying to kill this man and his whole nation and my wife Esther, and they ain't did nothing but good. Esther was blameless, right? You had something?
Okay, I'm already gone, sir.
All right, keep going.
Go ahead.
Verse 14.
Verse 14. For by these means he thought finding us
Good, baby. Let's sit up.
To translated the kingdom of Persia to the Macedonians.
So now read verse 15. All right. So this is going to explain a little bit of what we was just reading in Esther 9. I believe that was Esther 9. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 15. So we find that the Jews whom this wicked wretch hath delivered to utter destruction, and are no evildoers, but live by most just laws.
Most just laws, right? So now Artaxerxes is saying, look, Haman was trying to kill these people. Come to find out, these people ain't no evildoers. These people ain't evil. The Jews ain't evil. These are a good people with just laws. And that's what we are. Like the children of Israel, the laws that the Most High has given unto us are righteous. The scriptures say this. This is the epitome of Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, that talks about the fact that the other nations are going to look at us and say, how wise and how wise are these laws that the Most High has given to these people. All right. Because the other nations can see that this is a righteous God that we follow. This God that doesn't allow wickedness. We're not evildoers. We don't steal from one another. We don't kill one another. The scriptures say you can't even deal falsely with one another. The scriptures say you can't even hate your brother. You understand? Like, we're a righteous nation led by righteous laws. And Artaxerxes find that in every nation that looks upon us, all right, can see that. Even your modern day oppressor Esau, all right, can see that we're a loving and caring people. They see that. That's why they use us the way that they do. Now they're gonna call us thugs. They're gonna call us evil, but in their mind, they know what type of people we are. We're the most loving and caring people and the most righteous people that you could ever fathom, right? And Artaxerxes understood that too. That's our custom, our culture, to be kind. Right? Go ahead. You have something?
Just to add on to that, sir. that even when you talk to other nations that come to America, America, every time somebody from different nations comes here, they always tell them, hey, those black Mexicans, they're evil people.
Mm-hmm.
And people will, of course, they'll go by what the white man tells them, so-called man, what he'll tell them.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you talk to someone that they've been around our people, they be like, yo, these black people, they're some like the most welcoming people I've ever met.
Yeah.
So nicest people.
Right. And that's the same thing that we saw with Haman. Like Haman is making us out to be some sort of evil people, but Artaxerxes, upon further examination, like these people ain't no evildoers. They live by just laws. Okay. Verse 16. 16. So like
Verse 16. And that they may be children of the Most High and most mighty living God, who hath ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner.
Go ahead.
Verse 17. Ye shall do well not.
No, read that from the top. You missed the word.
Verse 17. Wherefore ye shall do well not to put in execution the letters sent unto you by Ammon the son of Amatha.
He said, wherefore ye shall do well not to put in execution the letter sent unto you by Haman. He like, hey, look, those letters that you got, pretend they don't exist, because if you follow through with that declaration, I'm on your ass. That's an act of war. Because Artaxerxes was on our side now. Now he with the Jews. So now if you start to put Jews to death, Israelites to death, because of this declaration you received from Haman, Haman dead now.
Mm-hmm.
And you would do well not to try to follow that order. That's what Artaxerxes is saying. Go ahead.
So I can build right on that, because you know what's going to happen. Had any of those provinces stepped to us, know what Esther was going to do. Mm-hmm. She know what worked now. Right? She gonna be like, he made me sad.
Right.
It hurt my feelings.
Right. And see, and that's the thing. And you know, the way that this whole story unfolded is beautiful, because look how much favor her courage gained us. I want everybody to take away that from this, the courage. All right. Her being courageous is how we obtain favor, not only in the sight of the Most High, but in the sight of our enemy who had us in captivity. If we can work with that same amount of courage and selflessness, we can free this nation. This nation could be a mighty nation, even underneath the captivity that we're in. We can be an absolutely mighty nation, and that's what happened. Don't you know the king granted the military might to go put to death the enemies of the Jews? Let's keep reading. Verse 18.
Verse 18.
So, like, a matter of fact, give me verse 19. You can drop down a little bit.
Verse 19. Therefore, ye shall publish the copy of this letter in all places, that the Jews may freely live after their own laws. And now, there was a time during this time period we were not allowed to live after our own laws. And when we go into the prayer, when we read in the beginning, in Esther chapter 14, we read that these nations were making us serve their idols, which is every time that we come into a captivity, they make us serve their idols. That's where we get our Christianity and our Islam from, all these other idols, right? This idolatry that we fall into under captivity, because that's what they do.
Right.
And so that's what was happening at this time. But the declaration under Artaxerxes, he's saying, hey, you're going to post this letter in every province that I'm over, every province that I rule over, wherever there's a Jew, wherever there's Israelites. You're going to post this, and you're going to allow them to freely live by their laws. They're going to serve their God. This is how much favor. Can you imagine if we was given that freedom? Now, they say, well, this is the land of the free, home of the brave. So in America, we can practice Hebrew Israelism, like some of y'all like to call it, right? Which is really just the laws of God. Ain't no Hebrew Israelism, all right? But when we try to do that, we get put on the Southern Poverty Law Center website. We get deemed a hate group. We get called the Black KKK.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
We're not able to, but now imagine if we was able to freely keep our laws, statutes, and commandments and freely serve our God. You couldn't come on the news talking about us being a hate group. We couldn't do that. Well, that's the type of favor that we gained because of this sister's courage. You have something?
Like Passover, I think last year or the year before that, it was like like it was like, yeah, there's a hate group. They're gonna be in the convention center.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
General Yohana was like, one of the generals, commanding General Yohana, one of the generals, said, "We don't need the convention center. We can have it in the streets."
Mhm. Yeah, General Muhammad said that, and that's the thing. Like that when we had our Passover, of course we was gonna have our Passover anyway. When we had our Passover last year in North Carolina, all over the news, on multiple news articles and on the television, that's like, yeah, this hate group's about to have a Passover gathering in the I think it was the Raleigh Convention Center. I think that we had it at, and they was trying to make it to where we could not celebrate our Passover. They was like, we had to fight to stay in there, even though we had paid for it and everything. Lots and lots and lots of money already, but they wanted to kick us out of there. But of course, you know, the Lord was with us, so we was allowed to have it. But that wouldn't happen with this decree. And that type of decree is what, you know, was the result of Esther's courage, all right? And willing and selflessness and willing to stand up for her people.
That's right.
Okay. Almost done. Let me give verse let me see. Hold on. Okay. Give me verse 20. Just keep reading. Give me verse 20. You have something up?
So, like, if I could, sir, what you said struck me profoundly. She stood up to her husband for the sake of her people.
Yeah.
Beyonce's not doing that.
No.
Because what she should have told Jay-Z was, shut up about Colin. Shut up. The reason being is because that Colin Kaepernick, that was right here. Wasn't that Mordecai when everybody else bowed? And the one brother that didn't do the bending of the knee was Mordecai.
Yeah, it was Mordecai. Same thing that you see in the time of Maccabees, right? You know, and that's one thing. Like, we even find that similar things. Let's see. I mean, you know, the story of Nabal and Abigail. You know, her husband was a goddamn idiot, stupid as hell, and she defied her husband. Right? She defied her husband, but righteously, because her husband was going to get her and a lot of people killed. So she defied her husband. There's certain times when a woman, you know, is more wise than her husband. some brothers dumb as hell, you know. But you know, point being, and that's just something that you find, you know, and there's a way to do it. Abigail didn't go cussing out her husband. She just, here he go again. All right, she just hopped on the horse, dipped out, went and took care of business, came home like nothing happened. What did Esther do? She didn't cuss that man out. You understand? She put on some pretty. She went and got pretty and dainty. She just, fainted at the sight of him. I mean, you know, she utilized her femininity to win that man over and ultimately to, you know, win her people. You understand? So, but absolutely. All right, let's keep reading. Let me get verse 20.
Verse 20. If ye shall aid them that even the same day, being the 13th of the day of the 12th month Adar, they may be avenged on them, who in the time of their affliction shall set upon them.
Verse 21.
Verse 21. For Almighty God had turned to joy unto them the day wherein the chosen people should have perished.
And see, this type of thing brings glory to the name of the Most High God. This man is a Persian. He's not of the seed of Israel, the chosen seed of the Most High. He's not of the children of Israel.
Right.
Like, this is not his God. He has his own gods that he worships. But he called the Most High Yahweh the Almighty God.
That's right.
And that's a glorious thing for you to bring praise and glory to the Most High's name in the sight of heathens. Sometimes this is the thing. Sometimes you got to just call it what it is. You might not agree with it, but you got to call it what it is. Well, he don't agree with the Most High God, especially because he's not the chosen people of the Most High God. But you got to call it like you see it.
True enough.
The Egyptians had to call it like they saw it. They say, hey, that God is the Most High God. He crippled our economy. Hold on, man. Okay, you good, baby. He crippled the Egyptians' economy. They was like, yeah, we don't like this God, but he's definitely God. He is the Almighty God. And this Persian, same thing. I ain't gonna say he said anything about not liking God, but he certainly showed that he knows that this is the Almighty God. You understand? Yes, I'm good.
And they all do, all of the world leaders, they all come to the same conclusion. Whether or not their end is awful or not means nothing.
Mhm.
Before these heathens pass through that grave, the Most High is a jealous power, and he doesn't share his glory with anyone. And he's about you knowing who the hell he is at this point. Remember, it took us a while for us to learn his name and so forth. Right now, he wants his recognition.
Right.
It's a lot.
No, damn right. And that's the thing. The Lord said that he won't give his glory unto another. He won't do that. So he don't want nobody else to have that glory. So that's why he gonna make sure that the nations understand who's running this thing. You understand? All right, we almost done. Give me read verse 21 again.
Verse 21. For Almighty God hath turned to joy unto them the day wherein the chosen people should have heard.
So look, it said the Almighty God have turned to joy unto them the day wherein the chosen people should. He's calling us the chosen people. He's acknowledging that we're the chosen people, and he's saying that the favor of the Most High that was bestowed upon us, the joy that was bestowed upon us, it came at a time when we should have perished. But once again, because the Lord worked through this system, all right, we were saved. All right, from that judgment. All right, keep going. Verse 22.
Verse 22. Ye shall therefore among your solemn feasts keep it in high day with all feasting.
All right, it's talking about Purim. Keep going.
Verse 23. That both now and hereafter there may be safety to us and the well-affected Persians, but to those which do conspire against us and us a memorial of destruction.
So not only was this considered a high day for us, a civil, I'll call it a holiday or a feast day for us, the children of Israel, but Artaxerxes and the Persians, they kept it as a day too. Why? Because it was a day that, remember, Haman or Haman came up against Persia by trying to come up against us, by putting them in that spot.
Right.
So everybody kept it as a day, and it was ordered by the king that everybody in all of his provinces had to keep it as a day, as a feast day, because that was how important this day was. Go ahead.
So another thing, just one
You
more.
got it.
The scriptures will tell you there was no record of Xerxes leaving his castle while this was happening. This means that this king was waking up and going to sleep, going to the bathroom around his palace, seeing his subjects get offed by us. And he okayed it because his woman said, it hurt my feelings.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. Think about the way that the Lord works. You know, the Lord can harden a man's heart or he can soften a man's heart. He softened this Artaxerxes' heart. You understand? Keep reading.
Verse 24. Therefore, every city and country whatsoever which shall not do according to these things shall be destroyed without mercy with fire and sword, and shall be made not only unpassable for men, but also most beasts and fowls forever.
All right, that's how important this thing, not only to us keeping it as a day, as a feast day, but even once again to the Persians. They was like, if you don't keep this feast day, I'm gonna come to your land. We're gonna put you to death. I'm gonna come to your land with an army and put you to death for not keeping this damn day. That's like how the Lord say, if you don't keep the Day of Atonement, you get cut off forever. You get put to death for not keeping that day. Right. He took that position for the day of Purim. You understand? Now, of course, that was his declaration. This is not, to the Most High, this is not a high holy day. All right, this is not a high Sabbath. This is just a civil day of remembrance that was decreed because this is a victory, man.
Damn right.
It's a victory, just like you find in the Feast of Dedication when we defeated the Grecians, all right, or when you find in the Passover when we defeated the Egyptians, all right. This is just another declaration of the Lord's mercy and grace that He bestowed upon us that we do not deserve. We are not owed this thing. You understand? But through courage, all right, and through wisdom, we attained it. And that's how we have to operate and we have to move. Once again, I want everybody to remember, we're going to close out. I want everybody to remember the main thing that we should all take from this is the courage that this sister had, the wisdom that Mordecai had, and the selflessness that these two people, Mordecai and Esther, had, that allowed the entire nation of Israel to be saved from death and destruction. If we can operate in that courageousness, all right, and if we can operate in that selflessness, we can save a nation just like that brother and that sister did.
That's right.
But it takes all of us. You understand? And we got to celebrate things like this. We got to celebrate these victories that we have over the heathen. And we at the last, we at the what is it? Fourth and inches. You understand? We right at the touchdown. We at the goal line.
Sloppy, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Can I drop a couple of
You got it.
honorable mentions for the sake of Queen Esther?
Mm-hmm.
The sister Monique, who has stayed with her husband, who has been in the eye of the media right now, getting shunned by everyone left, right, and center, except for a few brothers and a few sisters that have had her back. We in the ISUPK hear you, sister. You don't need to stop talking. You keep talking. She's doing it. She's opening up the sky. And what she's doing truly is she's actually saving little girls. You don't feel it yet. Some of you dumb bros don't feel it yet. You might not live to see it, but she's saving your daughter's life by telling you the truth about how trifling Hollywood is. So
no, damn right. And that's what I'm saying. So like we all, I was going to read it, but for sake of time, I won't. But first, that's just the 3rd and 4th chapter. Talk about the impact that women have. All right. A lot of people, sometimes they look at the Bible and they don't see the impact, all right, of women. They think the Bible's just all based off of men. And yes, men are the leaders. So of course you're going to find a lot of stories about men and things that are pertaining to men. But First Ezra chapter 3 and chapter 4 as well talk about the importance of women. Y'all can read that on your own time. It talks about how important the role of a woman is and the lengths to which men are willing to go for women. All right. Women are the strongest thing next to the truth, right underneath the truth. All right. Zerubbabel said that. All right. So, and we see that. We see that with what happened with Esther. You understand? And we have to make sure that we remember those types of things. And we give credit where credit is due. You understand? Go ahead.
One more. Queen Esther, when you said Queen Esther saved our lives as a nation, right? Mm-hmm. She is married to a heathen, and she didn't have to get put to death. Mm-hmm. Malachi Hawashai wanted to save the nation and rule the earth. He had to live perfect.
The sister might have to leave soon, so if you
want
to let the sister eat.
It's a crazy thing that we're going through because it's like Esther. You would think that if anybody got punished, it'd be Esther. She's with a heathen, and the Most High is not with the interracial. But at the same time, it's like, well, look what she did. Yeah,
that was necessary. And I mean, think about all of the things that you see in the Bible like that. Sometimes it's necessary for a point. You understand? Samson dealt with a goddamn African, right? But that story was necessary to show us certain things in this Bible, to reveal to us certain things in this Bible. And that's what you find in Esther. You understand? And you find that all throughout the Bible.
Right.
There's lessons to be learned. There's infinite wisdoms that you find in this Bible. I pray that everybody was able to understand what we take away from this story and from celebrating the Feast of Purim. Mm-hmm. All right. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and close out. All right. We're just gonna salute out. So just the men of Israel, Imagine, needs to stand. Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak. Sorry towards the sisters. Sisters, Imagine, y'all two stand up. Stand up. All right, we're gonna give the sisters a courtesy salute. Men of Israel, Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak. Yahweh Shema Latham B'Shem Yahushai. Yahweh Matah. Dismissed.